I know you got to participate in your first Hall of Fame induction at Maroa-Forsyth Schools last week. Tell me about this.
So last Saturday on March the 8th, the foundation with the archives essentially put on a Hall of Fame banquet and had a 2025 class that got inducted into that Hall of Fame. And it really is an evening of celebrating all things Maroa-Forsyth, looking at past accomplishments. I think sometimes when people hear Hall of Fame, they think it has to be sports, and that's not really the case. This is a Hall of Fame that really looks at educators, people who made significant contributions from the community. There are some sports individuals or teams that get recognized, but it's really a celebration of all the things that make Maroa-Forsyth great. And I participated last year just as an onlooker, just to attend it, and this year I got to have a really small part and talk about the future at Maroa-Forsyth a little bit moving forward. So Tina Horvey helps head it up along with Kelly Ritter. The night is really a silent auction that takes place, so they also use it as a fundraiser for the foundation. So our foundation right now is pumping out scholarship applications for high school seniors. There's lots of local scholarships that our kids can apply to from Maroa-Forsyth. This helps go that direction. It also helps fund grants that go into the classroom for teachers they can apply for. Also, we bought Sunshine School Supplies subscriptions for our teachers to go pick out things at the store at Hickory Point, some of the foundation pieces. So it's a big fundraiser for them as well. It's really great to hear the stories. Not being from Maroa-Forsyth, not being from Macon County, to hear some of the things that happened in the district over a long period of time was really awesome. I enjoyed a broad variety of people. We had people who, Melvin Nickel was an ag teacher for a long time. William Keys was a principal, an administrator, interim superintendent, and really just crazy to think about their impact and what they were doing early on in the days of Maroa High School. Diane Daggett was honored from her family consumer sciences pieces. David Boys and Will Austin were honored for athletic pieces. Cody Floyd was honored with his military service. He works in Champaign County now, and what he does, a Purple Heart winner, so recognizing a military piece. Austin Peebles, who is a part of the basketball run that Maroa had that was really popular, he works for the San Antonio Spurs. So he got to do the interview and shared a video from there. The Horvey family was recognized as alumni and sponsor. And then we honored a set of football and baseball teams, all from 1981 to 83. So the very first runner-up was from 1981. And then that baseball team was an Elite Eight participant in 82, and 83, that football runner-up. And to hear all of those people talk about how impactful the educators were, how impactful their community was to them, and about how much pride, even if they don't live around here, they have in coming back, it really, really paints the picture about how impactful educators are, how impactful Maroa-Forsyth schools have been, and really how strong our alumni base is. So it was really fun to hear. There's also a live auction that happened to raise money, too, with items, and people were so generous at the auction, and just a really great night to celebrate all things Maroa-Forsyth.
Yeah, I know. I talked to Mr. Appleby a few years back when this was first kind of getting going. This isn't a very old venture in your district, is it?
No, it got started really around the COVID time period, and then had hit the pause like a lot of other things, which that's crazy that we're 5 years removed from some of that. But Mr. Appleby kind of birthed the idea, and it's set up like the Baseball Hall of Fame, to where there's the inductees get a vote, and then the committee gets to have a vote, and you got to get a certain percentage of the vote to get in. And there's a nomination process that you have to submit in, and Mr. Appleby kind of worked through the logistics of that. I had the privilege to sit on the selection committee this year and see all the applicants, and just as many people that we honored that night, there were just as many applicants who were deserving as well for their history and their contributions to Maroa-Forsyth.
How does one get nominated?
So you can go on to the website, the school district website. There's a spot there on the foundation spot, and it has a Hall of Fame piece on it, and you can fill out a nomination form. You've got to be nominated on the form, and all those forms get submitted in the fall, and then they get vetted out and screened with the committee. And then once we sit down with a group, there's a group that gets put out there for vote, and everyone who's in the Hall of Fame gets a vote. The committee gets a vote, and then if you get a certain percentage of that vote, I can't remember the exact percentage. I want to say it's 60% of the vote. Then you're considered to be nominated in, and then they start planning that out. So really a cool thing to be a part of, really awesome to see Trojan Pride, really interesting to see the stories. As an outsider, hearing the stories about all the things that have happened at Maroa-Forsyth over the years, it really is awesome to hear the contributions of so many people that have made the district so great.
So what's the evening like this thing takes part in?
Yeah, so it's there's essentially the evening starts with opening up for the silent auction items that are there. Appetizers are there. Music kind of plays in the background, and at one point there's a dinner that's served as a part of it. And during that dinner time period, they start with the induction pieces. This year they changed the format a little bit, where they broke up in different groups, where they recognized a few inductees and then did like an auction item, and then did some other inductees, and they saved the teams for last. Each group kind of gets a chance to have a speech and share some things about their experiences and what went on for their time at Maroa-Forsyth. And then it closes out with the final auction item.
So do you recognize these individuals anywhere else besides this banquet, like maybe a basketball halftime? Is there a or like plaques or anything?
So inside the high school, there is an area where it has all the donors for the Hall of Fame, and then there is a video board inside of the right by the main competition gym at the high school. And that video board will get you through the Hall of Fame, and you can access that on a touch screen, and you can go through and see everyone that's on there. But the main recognition point really is at that night. And then it also lives on the Facebook page, which takes you to the foundation's website, and then they have that all curated with Tina and Kelly Ritter from there.
Gotcha. What's attendance like for this?
I would say we're at about 180 people this time, which is pretty typical. The event continues to grow. It continues to gain. I do think some people think it is just an athletic thing. And I think the more that we tell the story that it's more than just athletics, it's about celebrating academic achievements, it's about community contributions, I think that grows the pool, and people come to the event. One of the inductees currently lives in Tennessee, and he came back and he's like, wow, this is incredible. I can't believe that we're doing this. More people should come. And I think that's the thing that I would encourage people. If you're either new to the area like me, or you've went to Maroa-Forsyth High School, it really is a celebration of all things with Trojan Pride.
Yeah, well, and if I'm not mistaken, like growing the alumni base was like a real big push at one point in Maroa. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, and Tina Horvey has kind of headed up the alumni group. There's a tent that happens at homecoming. We have some brick pavers that you can currently purchase to help support kind of an alumni piece as well that goes out by Walter Boyd Field. Trying to connect with an alumni newsletter that Tina puts out. So there's a lot of work that's happening behind the scenes to try to have that alumni base actively engaged, either giving to the foundation, being at the dinner, active in the Hall of Fame, participating in the life of the school in those events.
Again, Mr. Adam Ibbotson is the superintendent of Maroa-Forsyth Schools in studio with us today. Leading up to this event, like when are like nominations due? How do you make people aware to, hey, nominate somebody? You know, we're looking for people. What does that process look like, and when does it get started?
Usually a big push in the fall once we get back from school, and usually that deadline, I believe we have the meeting around October, I believe, is where we kind of sat down and went through there. They'll put information up for the next nomination run once we get into the summer and start the fall. So nominations can be accepted. You can really go onto the website and find the nomination form. I don't think the new one has been updated for the next class, but usually that happens in the fall. And then usually around October, we sit down and screen the applicants, and we look at it as a committee and then get a pool together for the vote. Then that vote gets decided on in the fall, and we start notifying because some people are out of state. They're traveling from far away. So just to let their families know, let the people know so they can make arrangements to hopefully be there. And we had, our attendees either had family members if they passed away, or we had a pretty good representation from all the different groups and teams.
Yeah, sure. Do you interview the nominees at all, like once you get to a certain point in the process?
So really it's the nomination letter and the nomination form that really stands alone for that.
Okay.
That's really the process, and that's where we're all on the even playing field as a committee, that we're reading through their accomplishments, and we look at what their nomination letter is. Then that helps us screen out to see where we're going to recommend people for the Hall of Fame.
Now, you mentioned it kind of mirrors like how the Baseball Hall of Fame works. I'm curious, what is the process of like notifying that person like? Because, you watch the videos of the Baseball Hall of Famers getting that call, or the Football Hall of Famers
Sure.
getting that call? What's that like?
Yeah, usually Tina from the foundation or Kelly from the foundation usually give a call to the people and let them know. And then we also publish it on Facebook and our social media, and we do recognize the names at a football game. I guess that is one way that we usually announce the members of the Hall of Fame there. That usually happens at some point in a fall event, so we can recognize them to the whole community and publicize it that way.
Gotcha. Do you get people that come back for that too?
Yeah, I think not so much for that, but the homecoming tent, that alumni presence at the alumni tent. This year, homecoming was super late because we had to move homecoming because of the cancellation of the game. But usually, and it was still a pretty good turnout where they'll bring out pieces from the archives. They'll bring out old yearbooks, bring out old things that have been curated there with the archives. And people love going through it and looking at it to check out the past.
Cool. Awesome. What did I miss in that conversation, Mr. Ibbotson?
No, that's it. I just wanted to recognize those people. Also, just want to say special thanks to all the members of the foundation board, especially Tina and Kelly Ritter, Tina Horvey and Kelly Ritter. So much work goes into the event. So much planning goes into it. It's just an enjoyable evening for everybody. So thank you to all of them.
And again, where do folks learn more about what's going on with this?
mfschools.net, and then you can click on the foundation tab at the very top, and it'll take you right to it.
Sounds great. Mr. Adam Ibbotson is the superintendent of Maroa-Forsyth Schools, our guest in studio. More to come with him on the morning show.
WHOW.
LFB.org. Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Steady trade at this hour with corn, beans, and Chicago wheat. May corn down 5 3/4, 459.5. July corn down 4 1/2, 467 3/4. New crop December down 1 1/2, 450 3/4. May beans down 1 1/2, 1009 1/4. July beans down 1 1/4, 1023 3/4. November new crop up 2, 1013 3/4. May Chicago wheat up 2, 564 1/2. July wheat up 2 1/4, 580 1/2. May bean meal 303.40, that's down 370. May bean oil up 20 cents, 41.48. Livestock market, March feeders up 15 cents to 80.37. April live cattle down 27 cents, 201.77. April lean hogs 85.25, down 37 cents. Energy market, April crude oil 66.68, up 13 cents. And I'm Jim Taylor on the RFD Radio Network.
Good morning. I'm Helen McAlassie, and I'm running for mayor of Clinton. As mayor, I will bring my experience in managing a $9.2 million budget and negotiating benefits for over 100 employees to the job. My ability to work with families, law enforcement, and local and state leaders will be a benefit to our city. Clinton is a great city, and when we all work together, we can move Clinton forward together.
Paid for by Michelossi for Mayor.
If the flu's got you down, the Warner Hospital and Health Services Walk-In Clinic inside Family Medicine can help you feel better fast. CEO Paul Skowron inviting you to make us your backup plan to better health. Find out more by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know. Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Mr. Adam Ibbotson is the superintendent of Maroa-Forsyth Schools, our guest in studio today. And, you know, Mr. Ibbotson, it's the time of the year, believe it or not, where we're kind of on that downhill slide to the very end of the year. What's going on?
Well, the ping of the bat is happening. This week has definitely felt like spring sport weather, with weather in the 60s and 70s and scrimmages and pieces with baseball and softball. So we've started all of our spring sports. So our track kids are active in indoor meets, working towards the unofficial indoor state meet at Illinois Wesleyan later on this month. We've had some really strong showings for the boys and girls track group. Give a shout out to Coach Martin. This is his last baseball season serving as the Trojans coach. Thank you to him and all of his years of service. Looking forward to a good year from the baseball team. Coach Fink and the softball team are getting ready to get started next week. Games really get going for us, weather pending. So that's exciting. We've also had a really great spring in terms of Some of our scholastic team has been strong. Our academic challenge team went to sectionals this year and competed there. We got a couple kids that are competing for state spots there. So academically has been strong. And we're rounding the bend into the spring. And always in school time, when you get to the spring, there's always state accountability. So as we kind of round into that, our kids across the state of Illinois are involved in the Illinois Assessment of Readiness, the IAR testing. So that's grades 3 through 8. Our elementary school kids at Forsyth Grade School, they're engaged in that today, getting started here before break with a couple of weeks of it. And really the IAR is a computer-based test that measures math and English and language arts. They've got to solve problems. They've got to explain their answers. They've got to cite text evidence. They've got to be able to manipulate the technology to drag and drop things. It's a pretty intense test as we go through it, and that's one of the pieces of accountability for us when they recognize schools as exemplary or commendable. That's one of the pieces of the pie. So our kids are doing that at the grade school before break. Our middle school kids will engage in that after our spring break. Our spring break is the week of the 24th, so we're off that week whenever we do that. So our middle school kids will come back and do that the first couple of weeks of April. And then our high school kids, we've switched back in Illinois to the ACT. So the ACT, I think about when I was in school, it was really, you did it at school if you were a junior, and then if you wanted to do other pieces younger, you could. The state offers a suite of ACT testing for 9th graders and 10th graders. Maroa High School, Forsyth High School will be doing that on April the 15th. We're doing test prep work with our kids. We're using our focused learning time to get ready for that. To help kids, because that's a big one as we think about college entrance. I know for a while, and some schools still have test optional, but I think that test score does go a long way for entrance scholarships, and I think you're seeing some more of that come back at universities to see that testing piece.
Yeah, so I don't know if you remember, but I don't remember doing ACT prep. I mean, like, you had to pay for that and go do it elsewhere when I was in school.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, I don't know, but...
Yeah. I think whenever I was in school, we kind of did it as a part. If you were a junior and you were taking junior English,
right,
your teacher may say, hey, we're going to practice this. This is a passage like from the ACT. We've committed at Maroa to where we're using an online program through Jason Franklin, and it's essentially, and there's different ones that are out there to be able to use, but it's essentially, how does the test look? Because the ACT timing is much different than the SAT. There's no longer a state science test because it's included in the ACT. So all of that's kind of shifted. So we kind of shifted our test prep and provided that to families at a much reduced cost if they wanted to do that. They could do it on their own time. They could do it at school. They could do it in focused learning, or they could do it at home. So I think that part, I think it's good for us as a district to help offset with some of those costs. So that's happening on the 15th. And the craziest part of the end of the year is thinking about graduation. So graduation is going to be here before you know it. The 23rd of May is high school graduation at Maroa-Forsyth, and 8th grade promotion is the 22nd. So when we get back from break, we're looking a little less than 2 months, and then we're getting ready to roll into summer. That sounds like a long time, but we're going to be there before you know it, and being into the fourth quarter and getting ready to finish it up. So those are some exciting things.
It feels like the first 2 months and the last 2 months just fly by.
Yeah.
And then kind of that middle slog, where you got the sickness going around and the grind of basketball and all those things. So, it's interesting. And I'm sure you just love state assessments, Mr. Ibbotson. I'm sure you're just a huge fan.
Well, I have a love-hate relationship with it. In some regards, I like them because I like the accountability about what we're really doing. I think accountability, I don't think anyone would say there shouldn't be accountability. However, how that accountability happens, I think is a different ballgame. I think it's one piece of the pie. A one-day test should not determine how, quote-unquote, good your school is. I do think that it's important for us as educators to say, are we really teaching what we need to be teaching? Are kids being held accountable? Are staff being held accountable? And it's a measuring stick. I think that is totally fine, and I do appreciate that. The thing that I don't enjoy about the state testing is we don't get the scores back very fast. It's hard for us to make a lot of change.
Which is crazy given the electronic nature of it now.
We will not get IAR scores back until we'll get some preliminary stuff in June. But we're taking the test in March. So that part, I think, we've asked the state of Illinois from the Superintendent's Association, can we have some sort of better reporting timeline? So if you want us to use this test, because I don't think any educator would say, no, we shouldn't test. We should, but is it appropriate? Is it timely? Is it actionable? Can we use this to drive improvement in our schools? And right now, the way the timeline's set up, it makes it tough. The other frustration part for me is sometimes the technology is tested more than the content. If you don't know how to drag and drop and use the equation editor, and like that's a lot to manipulate on a Chromebook or a computer. And I think sometimes that's not a fair test of what we know about math, reading, and writing.
Right, yeah. So when it comes to, like, the ACT, obviously there's a huge accountability for that student taking that test because, like you talked about, the implications for college and scholarships. But for that younger student, and I was telling you before we got started, like, my kids are young enough, they're gung-ho about this. They're, they got to go to bed on time, and they got to eat a breakfast and supper and all that stuff. But, like, for that, maybe that junior high or wherever else you're doing assessments at in the high school, they may get to an age where it's like, this doesn't really matter for me. Why should I care about this test? How do you keep that motivation with them?
I think the relationship with the teacher is huge. If the teacher sees it as important, and because really, think about elementary, our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are taking the test. If that teacher says, hey, I want you to do your very best. We've worked really hard all year long. I want you to show what you know. I want you to do a little bit more. When you feel like you're kind of bogged down, just keep on going. You can do it, and really encouraging them. There's a lot of motivation from your classroom teacher if they believe in that student. There's even research out there to talk about that affecting learning, maybe more so than any other program.
Really?
Is the teacher's belief that all kids can learn. And I think that's a motivator. I think both Mr. Shepard and Mrs. Reynolds, they do a good job of instilling some motivation pieces for our kids. There's also a piece where we provide some snacks or some things along the way to help out with keeping them rolling. That always helps.
Yeah.
And I think there's a pride piece. Like, our kids take pride in their school, and to be exemplary, this is a part of the puzzle. I do think there's kind of an intrinsic pride of representing your school, kind of that excellence and pride thing.
Right, the culture. Yeah.
That culture piece. I think that matters too for kids.
Sure, excellent. Mr. Ibbotson, 1 minute with you. What did I miss with you this morning you want to put out there for us?
I just appreciate the community. Just being in these different events and being at the Hall of Fame, seeing how supportive they are of our kids, how supportive they are of our programs, how supportive they are in education in general. I'm sitting here, 8 months into the job, and just so thankful for the people of Maroa-Forsyth, and thankful for the opportunity to come on and just share part of our story with you.
Sure. Well, where do folks go to follow along with all the things happening in your school buildings?
mfschools.net is the district website. You'll see a Facebook feed on the right where you'll see all things posted from the district. You'll see a calendar of events and links to all the things that we've talked about today.
Nice. Do you have, like, different social media accounts for, like, classrooms and schools and all that stuff?
Pretty focused on Facebook as our platform. That's where we found most of our people are at. So the grade school, the middle school, and the high school all have Facebook accounts, as does the unit office. Athletics does as well. And then all of those feed into the website, and you'll see those all on the right on a ticker with Facebook.
Easy enough. Mr. Adam Ibbotson, Superintendent of Maroa Schools. Network News is now.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton 92.